We're going to begin tonight with breaking news out of Memphis, where 3 former officers were found not guilty in some of the most serious civil rights charges they faced related to the beating death of Tyre Nichols. You'll remember Nichols was a FedEx worker in 2023. He was driving home from work in January of that year when he was stopped by a group of Memphis police officers. That traffic stop, it turned violent, and a group of officers beat the unarmed father. He died from his injuries 3 days later. While none of the former officers were found guilty of the most serious civil rights charges, excessive force and failure to intervene or deliberate indifference, they were, however, all found guilty of witness tampering. Here's how Nichols' family reacted to the news.
I just want to say for the family that we are all elated. We're all very, very happy that these guys have been put in jail. This is a long time coming.
Yes.
And justice for Tyre. So we're just so very proud that all of them are going to jail today.
Let's bring in NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson. Priscilla, you covered this immediately after it happened, as we saw those protests really start to spread across the area of Memphis. You were there for Tyre Nichols' funeral, and you spent a lot of time in that community. Walk us through what the deal was with these charges, the fact that they were found guilty on some, not guilty on others, but are still going to serve time behind bars. What stands out to you?
Yeah, Ellison, well, I certainly remember that we were both there reporting on the ground as that tape was released, and just horrific minutes after minutes of this beating that took place. And all of that was outlined in the 19 days that this trial went on, some 28 witnesses that were called. And ultimately, the jury went into deliberation today. They took almost 7 hours, and this is the verdict that they came back with. All 3 of those officers guilty of witness tampering, that obstruction of justice that likely has a lot to do with what happened after this incident as they were working to get their stories in line, and some of the things that happened there with regard to what they told their supervisors and how they sort of coordinated together. But we are seeing that one former officer in particular, Demetrius Haley, was found guilty not on those major charges, but on lesser charges of actually violating Tyre Nichols' civil rights, and that includes charges of bodily injury. And so that may have something to do with the way the defense laid out their case. Each of these 3 officers had different attorneys, and we saw them all kind of pointing the finger at each other, talking about what those ex-officers did or did not do. Some of them not seen throwing as many of the punches and the kicks and those types of things. And so that might explain why we see Demetrius Haley being convicted of some of those more serious charges like the bodily injury, but not for those other 2 officers, Tadarius Bean and Justin Smith. But as you noted, the family came out of court today, and they are hailing this as a victory. They are saying that every single one of these officers has been found guilty, the 3 who were on trial today, in addition to the 2 who have already pleaded guilty, and that they are all going to be going to jail. We know for more than a year now, this family has had to live without Tyre Nichols, as these officers have been out in the free world with their families. And today they were taken into custody by the U.S. Marshal. And so the family really celebrating that these former officers are no longer out on the streets, but they are now beginning the phase of punishment for what happened here. Ellison?
And Priscilla, this trial, this was a federal civil rights trial, right? And you had 5 officers facing, or you have 5 officers facing charges in a state trial. The state trial is still pending, as I understand it. Could you explain to us the difference between these 2 trials and what we expect to happen next with the state trial?
Yeah, so this federal trial was really focused on, did they violate Tyre Nichols' civil rights, his federal civil rights? But now this state trial is really going to look at the crime itself. And so they are charged with things like second-degree murder, aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping, official misconduct, and also official oppression. And so we just got a statement in from the district attorney in Shelby County, and he says that he is ready to proceed with that state trial, that it is still going to be moving full steam ahead. And we also heard from the family attorney, Ben Crump, saying that what happened in this federal trial could help to inform what happens in the state trial, because, as I mentioned, there was a lot of finger pointing among the former officers about who did what. And now all of that information is out there, and it can be used in the state trial and also in the civil trial that the family has filed. Allison?
All right, Priscilla Thompson, great reporting. Thank you. We appreciate it. Days after Hurricane Helene made landfall, destroying entire communities and killing over 200 people, we are beginning to learn the names of some of the storm's victims. Children and mothers like 27-year-old Kobe Williams and her newborn twins. All three of them were killed when a tree crushed their trailer home in Georgia. In North Carolina, where over half of these storm deaths took place, 7-year-old Micah and his grandparents, Nora and Michael Dry, were swept away by the floodwaters. Their family says it happened after the roof they were stranded on collapsed. And between the stories of gut-wrenching devastation, there are stories of survival that we're only beginning to hear about now. Like one from this woman who is pregnant and says that she managed to survive the storm because a mattress in her home was floating and she stayed on it for more than 8 hours.
You go from this scariest feeling in place to almost peaceful, because it was like you were already so scared and your body's getting cold from being in the water. I mean, I really thought I was just going to, drown in my own house.
Officials are starting to get a clearer picture of the damage that's occurred in western North Carolina. The governor says all water and transportation infrastructure is wiped out. Today, President Joe Biden visited communities wrecked by the storm in both Georgia and Florida. He visited North Carolina yesterday. As people try to pick up the pieces of their lives in these states, about 1 million are still having to do it without power. NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky joins us now from Irwin, Tennessee. Morgan, we are 1 week out. Are search and rescue operations still underway in Tennessee and some of these other hard-hit areas?
Yeah, Allison, we know that we're really kind of in a period of transition right now from a search and rescue to a recovery effort. But I should add here that this is an interesting situation in that there are still communities that are cut off from the outside world, essentially, Allison, and there are still plenty of people that are listed as missing. What we found is that may not necessarily mean they're in harm's way as much as it means they've lost all sort of communication. Here in Carter County, where we are, the number of missing was 60 just a couple days ago. That number dropped yesterday down to 3, and they give a lot of credit to crews on foot, on four-wheelers, ATVs, going back into these mountain communities and physically establishing contact with people, making sure they're okay, crossing their name off the list. And while they may be okay in a sense, they're still in desperate need of supplies. So that search and rescue mission transitioning now towards recovery. Unfortunately, there are still families out there crossing their fingers, hoping to hear about the fate of a loved one. But there is slow but steady steps here in northeastern Tennessee. Allison?
Morgan, tell us a little more about some of the helpers that you've heard of, that you've been able to interact with, whether it's the National Guard or I think even some celebrities like NASCAR racers have been out there doing their best to get to people.
Yeah, in fact, we're here in Bristol, Tennessee right now. I don't know if you can hear that sound. We're just outside Bristol Motor Speedway, and this has been kind of the site of a relief effort in and of itself. Several NASCAR drivers were doing their part, trying to deliver goods to people in need however they could, via helicopter, via truck, etc. And they've been just several of the big-name helpers here that have converged. I want you to hear from one woman who lost power, lost water for days on end. She was the recipient of some critical supplies, and here's what she had to say about the road to recovery. Take a listen.
What made this one so bad for y'all?
I think just the isolation, whereas lower-lying areas you can have a lot more access to get in and out of places. The roads are gridded, so if one road's blocked, you just go up to the next one. Here, that's it. You're in a holler, you're stuck.
One way in, one way out.
Yep.
Yeah, one way in, one way out. Unfortunately, you hear that time and time again. We were able to visit the small community of Elk Mills today, one of the first to report from that incredibly hard-hit area here in Carter County. And Ellison, the helicopter we were in touched down. I approached a woman there named Becky. She had tears in her eyes because she pointed at the helicopter and said, where that chopper just touched down used to be our fire department, but it was swept away by floodwaters. And I looked, and you can just see the foundation of that building left behind. Those on board the chopper offloaded supplies, and it certainly gave them a sense of hope, because they know that with that food and water, as well as medical gear as well, that buys them another day or two until they need another shipment brought in, because they are unfortunately cut off. Ellison.
Morgan, we are also hearing about a new investigation by OSHA related to that plastics factory in Tennessee, where you have been reporting all week. Can you tell us a little about what is going on with that investigation?
This factory is located in neighboring Unicoi County. They were hit incredibly hard, and we know that according to this investigation, they're citing the deaths of 4 employees at this plastics plant. We know that the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation is looking into this in a new case. OSHA also looking into this for various reasons. Number one, there are reports that this company did not disclose the deaths of at least 4 employees within the time period that they are legally mandated to do so. In addition to that, the families of those deceased employees are saying that had they been allowed to leave at the first sign of trouble, their lives could have been saved. And such, they weren't allowed to leave work, and they were caught up in ravaging floodwaters and ended up losing their lives. Ellison?
Morgan Chesky, thank you. As we mentioned before, President Biden continued to survey Hurricane Helene's damage today. He was in Florida and Georgia, taking part in an aerial tour over some of the hardest hit parts of Florida, meeting with survivors as well as first responders. Biden delivering remarks later in Ray City, Georgia, urging people to put politics aside.
In moments like this, it's time to put politics aside. Again, it's not one state versus other, it's the United States. You know, there's no Democrats or Republicans out here. It's what we do to make sure we restore the economy.
Joining us now is NBC's Ali Rafa. She joins us from Washington, D.C. Ali, President Biden has spent 2 days now surveying the damage from this hurricane, as the federal response is being pretty scrutinized here, right? We've heard from a lot of people living in these communities that they feel like they haven't seen enough help. Talk to us about what the administration says they are going to do to tackle some of these issues residents have raised of late.
Yeah, Ellison, we're seeing more and more questions from these residents impacted by Helene about whether the Biden administration reacted or prepared soon enough for this massive storm. And the White House is responding in a couple ways. First of all, they're showing us these visuals. In the case of yesterday, the president taking an aerial tour of the damage across the Carolinas. And in the case of today, taking an aerial tour of these storm-ravaged areas in Florida and Georgia, showing us his dedication to hearing these updates directly from officials on the ground about what more they need as their recovery process really is just beginning, as they still deal with these massive challenges in getting cell signal and power outages, in some cases still lacking running water, as they still try to clear debris to be able to find those still unaccounted for. The Biden administration also detailing steps that it took before the storm to make sure that these areas had these resources, although in some cases, as you're hearing from residents, those resources were put not in the areas most hit by the storm. The president also today talking about what he's done in the aftermath of the storm, deploying more than 1,000 active U.S. service members to help in recovery efforts. Obviously, FEMA still on the ground in those ongoing efforts. And the president today delivered a message directly to those impacted by Helene, saying, quote, "I hear you, I grieve with you, and I promise you we have your back. We're going to stay until you're restored," Ellison.
And Ali, you mentioned FEMA is still on the ground, but the head of the Department of Homeland Security has raised some questions about what they can do in terms of financing. Talk to us about FEMA's funding and those remarks from Alejandro Mayorkas.
Yeah, DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas saying yesterday that he is not optimistic that FEMA has enough funding to get through the rest of hurricane season, which, you know, lasts until the end of November. And Mayorkas didn't exactly explain how much money is still needed for these efforts by FEMA. But what his warning really does is raise awareness of a problem that definitely could get worse. And that's why we've seen the president, as well as several lawmakers on Capitol Hill, say that it may be necessary to bring lawmakers back from their recess that as of now is expected to last until after the November election to be able to pass another supplemental funding package for these recovery efforts. The president saying today that a supplemental cannot wait until after the election because, quote, people need help now. He said that the recovery from Helene, Ellison, is going to cost billions of dollars, saying, quote, Congress has an obligation to ensure the states have the resources they need. So that is something that we're going to be watching for very closely because at this point, the president hasn't pulled the trigger and hasn't called these lawmakers back to Washington.
White House correspondent Ali Rafa, thank you. It looks like it is all systems go for President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan, at least for now. The program has essentially been in limbo after these 7 Republican-led states sued the Biden administration, saying the program was illegal. But then yesterday, a federal judge in Georgia denied those claims, allowing for the student loan forgiveness plan to proceed, giving the Biden administration a political win just weeks before Election Day. Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. Danny, break this down for us for people who were following this kind of tangentially and then were like, I thought that was settled at the Supreme Court, where it felt like a lot of back and forth. What happened here?
This is kind of a complex law school exam type issue. You have 2 major issues. One is called standing. The other one is called venue. Article 3 standing is a constitutional requirement. All it asks is for every lawsuit that the plaintiff have to have some business. It has to affect him. I can't just not like something the government does or a company does and sue them in court if it doesn't actually affect me. So in this case, the court had previously found that of the states that had sued, only one, Missouri, that was a state that suffered harm. For now, that's enough. They suffered harm. They can continue as plaintiffs. The others can be in the case, but they don't have standing. They don't have an interest in the outcome, and that includes Georgia. Now, the case was actually brought in Georgia, so that raises a separate issue, which is called venue. Was the case brought in the right place? We have a rule in the United States that if I want to sue someone, I'm a New Yorker, you're a New Yorker, but Alaska has some amazing law I want to take advantage of. I can't file that suit in Alaska. I need to have proper venue. And there are all these rules about venue. So in a very creative argument, they said, well, wait, if only Missouri is allowed to bring the lawsuit and Georgia's still in the case, well, this case shouldn't be in Georgia at all because Georgia has no business being in the case. Therefore, the court said, well, the case isn't completely out, but we're going to transfer it. We're going to send it to Missouri, the one state that has standing to bring the lawsuit. Because remember, the court decided that that loan program, MOHELA it's called, actually had the ability to bring this lawsuit. So the case is dismissed, but for venue purposes. And I've had that in my own cases. It doesn't mean the case truly goes away. It's just getting transferred to another venue where it belongs.
Okay, so what does it mean in the immediate future for people who have student loans? And in terms of where this winds up, is this just going to be back at the Supreme Court?
Yeah, the program goes forward, but I say that with an asterisk because it doesn't really mean that it is now sanctioned or that it has the green light. This is just a temporary reprieve. This case is locked up in all kinds of injunctive actions and stays. So now the case is just getting transferred. That does mean temporarily that there is a, I guess you would say, a temporary green light, but not for long. The case still needs to be adjudicated on the merits. So if this is a win, it is truly only a temporary win at best.
All right, Danny Savalos, thank you. As always, we appreciate it. Okay, believe it or not, we really are just 33 days away from Election Day. Both Harris and Trump, they are on the campaign trail tonight, making their final pitches to voters. Trump, he's holding a rally over in Michigan, where he has falsely claimed yet again that he won the 2020 election.
It was a rigged election. You have to tell Kamala Harris that's why I'm doing it again. If I thought I lost, I wouldn't be doing this again. You know where I'd be right now? On the beaches of Monte Carlo, maybe, or someplace. Be having a nice life.
Meanwhile, Vice President Harris just wrapped up a rally in the birthplace of the Republican Party, Ripon, Wisconsin. Campaigning alongside her was prominent Republican Liz Cheney, who officially endorsed Vice President Harris on stage.
Lost the 2020. I know that our security and our freedom depend upon a world in which America, with our allies, leads. And above all else, I know that the most conservative of conservative values is fidelity to our Constitution. I tell you, I have never voted for a Democrat, but this year I am proudly casting my vote for Vice President Kamala Harris.
NBC News correspondent Gabe Gutierrez picks it up and has more from Wisconsin. Hey, Gabe.
Hey there, Ellison. Just a short time ago, that rally with Vice President Kamala Harris and former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney wrapped up, and it was a remarkable sight, something we would never have imagined just a decade ago. A staunch conservative like Cheney campaigning with a Democrat enthusiastically. Well, Kamala Harris is very grateful for the support, and her campaign really believes that this could help put Kamala Harris over the top in some of these key swing states like Wisconsin. Now, this location is especially symbolic because it is considered the birthplace of the Republican Party. The party is believed to have started here. The ideas behind the party back in 1854. So this was a very conscious choice by the Harris campaign to really highlight her pitch to independents, moderates, and frankly Republicans who may have voted for Nikki Haley in the primary and are just sick of Donald Trump. Now, while Harris has received the most support from organized labor, earlier today there was an issue in that the International Association of Firefighters voted very narrowly not to endorse any candidate, and that's being seen as a blow to Harris just several weeks after the Teamsters Union did the same. Ellison?
Gabe Gutierrez in Wisconsin, thank you. Abortion continues to be a pivotal wedge issue in this coming election. And now former First Lady Melania Trump is adding her voice to the chorus defending reproductive rights. NBC's Garrett Hake has more.
Tonight, the Trump family, a house divided on the issue of abortion rights. Former First Lady Melania Trump defending them in an unreleased memoir, writing, quote, restricting a woman's right to choose whether to terminate an unwanted pregnancy is the same as denying her control over her own body, according to a Guardian report unconfirmed by NBC News. And Mrs. Trump posting today.
There is no room for compromise when it comes to this essential right that all women possess from birth. Individual freedom.
Her position in stark contrast to that of her husband, the Republican presidential nominee, who opposes federal abortion rights while supporting exceptions for rape, incest, and if the mother's life is in danger, saying decisions on restrictions should be left to the states. Former President Trump also regularly boasting about the repeal of Roe v. Wade, falsely claiming majorities supported that decision.
Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states.
Despite their disagreement on abortion rights, Melania Trump remains a strong political supporter of her husband, who spoke out late tonight.
We spoke about it, and I said, you have to write what you believe. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You have to write what you believe. I said, you have to stick with your heart. I've said that to everybody.
But tonight, the Harris campaign highlighting the split between the Trumps, releasing a statement that reads in part, sadly for the women across America, Mrs. Trump's husband firmly disagrees with her and blaming former President Trump for abortion restrictions in Republican-led states, saying it, quote, threatens their health, their freedom, and their lives. And tonight, no response from Donald Trump or his campaign to Melania Trump's comments.
Garrett Hake, thank you. Don't go anywhere because we are just getting started here on Stay Tuned. Up next, Israeli forces are getting ready for retaliation from Iran. NBC's Richard Engel has the latest from the ground in Lebanon. Plus, a TikTok creator is arrested for second-degree murder. The latest on the investigation coming up. And Elon Musk's influence on the election. The tech giant is donating millions to both the presidential and House races. But a new investigation reportedly shows he has been pouring money into politics for a lot longer than that. That is later this hour in the Future of Everything. Welcome back. Here are some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. Breaking news, thousands of dock workers on the East Coast and Gulf Coast are heading back to work as a tentative agreement has been reached between the International Longshoremen's Association and the U.S. Maritime Alliance. This agreement would extend the current contract to January 15th and resume negotiations on outstanding issues. Garth Brooks is being accused of sexual assault. His former hair and makeup artist filed a lawsuit against the singer in California. She claims Brooks raped her multiple times dating back to 2019. It comes as the country singer went to federal court in Mississippi to try and stop the forthcoming lawsuit a few weeks ago. NBC News has reached out to Brooks' team for comment, but so far we have not heard back. A toxic chemical haze in Georgia is forcing people to stay indoors. The smoke contains high levels of chlorine, which could cause symptoms like eye irritation. It started spreading after a chemical lab near Atlanta caught fire last Sunday. The movie Rust is getting its world premiere in Poland. It comes almost 3 years after cinematographer Helene Hutchins was killed on set. Alec Baldwin was charged with involuntary manslaughter, but the case against him was dismissed in July. The premiere is set for late next month. Authorities are on high alert as the Jewish holiday Rosh Hashanah begins. Police from L.A. to New York are stepping up security at synagogues and consulates. It all comes after Iran's missile attack on Israel this week. And right now, or right before our show, rather, 10 consecutive rockets struck Beirut, Lebanon. That is according to Lebanese news agencies. It's the latest in a series of strikes in that country. The blasts, they were seen coming down near Beirut's airport just as a civilian plane arrived and landed from Dubai. Meanwhile, 9 people were killed in central Beirut earlier today. Israel says it was a precise attack on a Hezbollah structure. Lebanese health officials say over 1,400 people have been killed in this fighting so far, and all of it happening while the Middle East braces for what is expected to be a heavy response from Israel for Iran's missile attack. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez has more.
Tonight, as Israeli ground forces push deeper into Lebanon, the world asking, how far will they go? The IDF says it aims to push back Hezbollah militants who have been firing rockets into northern Israel for nearly a year, targeting them in small-scale raids along the border. But as we drove the winding mountain roads of the Galilee, we saw evidence of a much larger military buildup.
All across northern Israel, we are seeing tanks, armored vehicles, the unmistakable signs of an army on the move, getting ready to head over the border into Lebanon.
It's raising fears that what Israel says is a limited offensive is instead the start of a wider assault.
Are these local raids going to be enough to push Hezbollah back, or are you going to have to send in more forces?
We're focusing on local raids according to intelligence, where we know there's Hezbollah infrastructure that we need to remove. And we're going after the points where we understand the proximity is dangerous and is preventing right now the possibility of Israeli civilians going back to their homes in northern Israel.
Around 1 million Lebanese civilians have already been displaced by Israel's operation, according to Lebanon's government. And tonight, the IDF ordering the evacuation of 25 more towns and villages, including the regional capital Nabatea, which is outside the UN buffer zone designed to separate Hezbollah and Israel. Around 1,400 Lebanese have been killed by Israeli strikes in just over 2 weeks, according to the health ministry. Among them, more than 100 children. The intense bombing has leveled whole neighborhoods. This is what's left of Sausan al-Halawa's home. Here is where my daughter-in-law died, and both her sons were hit, she says. Her own face still bearing bruises from the blast. Israel says the attacks have succeeded in destroying Hezbollah tunnels along the border and limiting the group's rocket fire, though not stopping it altogether.
We are once again seeing Israeli Iron Dome missile interceptors launched into the air, trying to take down some of this incoming Hezbollah fire.
The ground assault, not without cost. At least 9 Israeli soldiers have been killed so far, reviving memories of Israel's 1982 invasion of Lebanon. What was supposed to be a limited operation turned into a 20-year occupation of the country's south. Hundreds of troops were killed fighting Hezbollah, in a quagmire conflict sometimes described as Israel's Vietnam. Tonight, those same border villages are once again a battlefield.
Our thanks to Raf Sanchez for that report. Coming up, there is growing support to free the Menendez brothers after a hit TV show put them back in the spotlight. The question, is it enough to get them another chance to make their case in court? More on that story after the break. But first, you gotta see this. Down at the Maryland Zoo, things are getting colorful for a cause. The little penguin Picassos get to waddle over canvases making their own masterpieces. The program's called Artwork by Animals and includes a range of animals from penguins to otters. And if you don't have happy feet, no problem. Even the giraffes get to show off their skills and get a quick snack in the process. The zoo says each piece of artwork is completely unique and comes in different sizes. 100% of the proceeds support animal care, education, and wildlife conservation. Look at that. We will be right back. Welcome back. Here are some of the stories happening out west that we're following. Former Colorado County Clerk Tina Peters was sentenced to 9 years behind bars today. A jury found her guilty in August on counts of election interference. The Mesa County Clerk was involved in an election computer breach where she gave conspiracy theorists access to voting systems while searching for voter fraud. And what's being called Los Angeles' largest ever extremist group takedown, a white supremacist gang. Their members and associates are facing federal charges. 68 of the San Fernandino Valley Pecker Woods gang were indicted this week on charges ranging from racketeering to conspiring to distribute drugs. Officials say they found guns, drugs, and Nazi paraphernalia while serving these arrest warrants. And the relentless heat out west is still not letting up. 29 million people are under heat alerts today, stretching from California all the way to Colorado. High temperatures are expected to be anywhere from 10 to 25 degrees above average, and this unseasonably hot October weather is expected to continue for the next few days. A popular TikToker known as Mr. Prada is now charged with second-degree murder and obstruction of justice. A new arrest warrant from police in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, describes evidence allegedly linking 20-year-old Terrion Thomas to the murder of a 69-year-old therapist. Thomas was arrested in Dallas after being suspected of stealing the car of the victim, whose body was reportedly found on the side of a road. NBC News correspondent Maya Eaglin joins us now with more. Maya, we talked about this yesterday. There were so many holes, questions.
Yes.
What do we know now that we didn't know yesterday?
We have a lot more information, thankfully. So the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Department did charge Thomas with second-degree murder. And after they found Abraham's body wrapped up in that tarp on the side of the road, investigators actually went to Thomas's apartment, where they say it was a pretty graphic scene. They say there was a significant amount of blood, sharp objects, weapons, signs of violence, and also items that appeared to show an effort to clean it all up. We're also hearing from witnesses who are telling officials that they saw Thomas struggling with a suspicious tarp. And to top that all off, there's DNA evidence that matches the items found at the apartment and the victim here, whose name is William Abraham.
Do we know anything else right now about what sort of connection these two individuals might have had? Was this random, or did they know each other before?
So right now, officials are saying that both the motive and relationship between Abraham and Thomas is unclear, but they say that there's no evidence that this was actually a client-therapist relationship. Okay. So that was a lot of what I was seeing in the comments reporting on the story. A lot of people speculating that they might have known each other. Right now, it's not clear if that is the case or not. We do know, though, that Thomas is in Texas, still in jail. His case is going to be transferred back to East Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we'll be awaiting a court date.
All right, Maya Eaglin, thank you. Before the O.J. Simpson trial captivated the nation, there was another televised trial that caught their eye first, the trial of Lyle and Eric Menendez. Their first trial, it resulted in a mistrial, but millions of Americans watched it on TV. Jurors had to decide if the brothers murdered their parents in a Beverly Hills mansion. The prosecution argued they killed their parents for money, but the brothers and their defense team, they said it was an act of self-defense brought on after years of sexual abuse.
Shortly after the killings, Lyle Menendez began to spend money, a lot of money.
He said that he didn't mean to hurt me. He would guide me, all my movements, and I would have oral sex with him.
They were convicted during a second trial and sentenced to life in prison after a judge decided much of the allegations about sexual abuse could not be entered into court. But now, more than 30 years later, a new Netflix show has renewed interest in the case, and the Los Angeles County District Attorney says his office is going to review new evidence related to the brothers' abuse allegations. It's something that could lead to a resentencing. Let's bring in NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz, who has more on this update. Liz, walk us through what we heard from the DA.
Hey, Allison. Yeah, well, interestingly, we actually didn't learn much new stuff from the DA. I think we came here thinking that there might be a chance that he would maybe announce that he had made some kind of decision or something new was happening in this case. We have known, and they repeated this today, that the LA District Attorney's Office is reviewing potential new evidence in this case, and that there is a chance that they could get they could be resentenced, which is what the Menendez brothers are fighting for. George Gascon, the district attorney here, he is in a tight race for re-election. So a few weeks before that election, he's now come forth and said that Netflix documentary has renewed a lot of public scrutiny. So he wanted to come forth and address it. But what he really said is what we know. They are renewing this new evidence. What's interesting about this new evidence, it comes from a Peacock documentary. That Peacock is a parent company of NBC News. And in that Peacock documentary, there's two key pieces of evidence brought to light that the Menendez brothers are saying should prove that they were acting in self-defense when they murdered their parents. One of them is that a member of a band came forward and said that their father also molested him. And then there's also a letter that was discovered that Eric Menendez sent their cousin, which was 8 months before the murders, in which Eric Menendez basically said, I'm paraphrasing here, but basically said he was scared of his father, that he keeps doing it, that he stays up late at night worried that he's going to come in. So they're pointing to that evidence. The DA says that they are reviewing it, but they have not yet made a decision.
You know, Liz, when we look back on this, one of the things their attorney in that first trial, or at least one of the brothers' attorney, I believe Leslie Abraham's son is her name there. She had talked about at the time and still maintains that part of the issue, she said initially, was that it was a time in the United States where people didn't have a lot of understanding of what sexual abuse could do to children. There was this general societal belief that boys in particular could not be sexually abused. Do you think this is something where the way culture has shifted could have an impact on what happens next year?
Yeah, well, Ellison, I actually did ask the district attorney that exact question. I said, do you think that the way that our culture has changed its view on sexual assault and victims, particularly male victims of sexual assault, do you think this case would be handled differently if it happened today? And he did acknowledge that likely it potentially could. Whether or not that changes how he decides to rule on this, we don't know. But I do think that there is a shift, and we've seen that even just within the past hour. Kim Kardashian, who has used her platform to really talk about criminal justice issues and bring light people who have wrongfully been accused, she just penned an essay for NBC News in which she says that Eric and Lyle Menendez should be resentenced, potentially set free. We'll show you a bit of it. She says Eric and Lyle had no chance of a fair trial against the backdrop. Back then, there were limited resources for victims of sexual abuse, particularly boys. And she basically said that they were condemned before the trial even began. So I do think that's going to be a major undercurrent throughout this trial, if it goes, or this hearing as they try to get their sentence overturned.
Liz, any sense of timing here? When could a judge possibly get involved in this, or just a new update?
Yeah, so we do know that the hearing is scheduled for November 26th. That's 2 days before Thanksgiving. That is going to be the hearing where we may get an answer from the district attorney on what they've decided to do. But we will hear then the cases for and against a potential resentencing, Ellison.
All right, Liz Kreutz in Los Angeles. Thank you. And now let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Angela Cinedella to talk more about what could happen here. Okay, so let's back up a little bit and focus on just sort of what is being asked by these attorneys for the Menendez brothers when they filed this habeas petition back in 2023. Are they saying, hey, just reconsider the sentencing, a judge should do that, or are they possibly pushing for an entirely new trial?
They're really asking for a vacation of that verdict, and it comes down to premeditation. So the brothers were convicted of first-degree murder, which requires premeditation, and in that it means the prosecutor successfully convinced the jury that these brothers had willfully, deliberately planned out this crime. But what the defense at that time argued was that while the brothers did kill their parents, they lacked that premeditation, that it was more out of self-defense. It happened in the heat of the moment as a result of fear and panic that was a result of the accumulation of all of this sexual abuse. So now with these two new pieces of evidence that Liz laid out that were part of this petition, they are claiming, the defense attorneys, that had the jury at that time heard these two new pieces of evidence, they would have then believed the sex assault, which then means that they would have believed the narrative of self-defense, and thus means that the prosecutors could not have convinced them of the premeditation required for first-degree murder.
And so that would mean, in theory, most likely they would have been convicted of something with a lesser prison sentence, I guess?
Yes. So actually, the first trial was deadlocked, and there was the option there of manslaughter and also first-degree murder. What happened in this trial that resulted in their conviction is the judge didn't let them consider manslaughter. So actually, it would have resulted in their acquittal at that time.
Okay. So talk to us about what could happen if this does go, if all the things that the defense wants to happen happens, yes. Right? Would they get credit for, like, time served since they've been in prison since 1996?
Right. So if the petition itself then is agreed upon, then that means that they should be released immediately, because that means that with this new evidence, they should have been acquitted. They shouldn't have been convicted. So they should walk out the door. But the DA today also mentioned that he would consider resentencing, which is actually separate from this habeas petition. And the resentencing is just saying to the court that these defendants are rehabilitated. They will likely not recommit these crimes. And so as a result, they should either be released now or have a reduced sentence. So he said the options are vast, and he will consider the evidence and then maybe also then propose a resentencing.
This idea that we've been talking about the way our culture has changed its perception of how we view sexual assault, sexual abuse, and also victims. There's a time in this country where, people thought you couldn't be raped if you were married by a husband. Changed on that. There was the argument at the time from Menendez's attorney saying, if my client was named Erica instead of Eric, I think we would have a different result. Do you think that is going to play into this idea of our culture having a different understanding of the impacts of sexual assault?
I think absolutely, and I think that's likely a large reason why the DA is even considering proposing a resentencing. And I think for two reasons. One, I think that a jury would likely be much more amenable to how this sexual assault could result in really wayward behavior. So at the time, people really scrutinized the Menendez brothers' actions and thought, this is also not really how victims of abuse would act. They don't go out and spend money. They don't then go out and act out with greed. But that's really changed the perception and the research. So I also think, secondly, then different expert testimony would have been presented at the time, and it's possible that then also could have swayed the jury. So yes, today's jury would look very different from the one that did convict them.
All right, interesting stuff. Angela Sinadella, as always, we appreciate your time and insights. Coming up, a movement is growing in support of a Texas man on death row, defending his claim of innocence that he did not kill his infant daughter. The exclusive interview next. In 2 weeks, Texas inmate Robertson could become the first person in the country's history to be executed for shaking a baby to death. It's a crime that's been dubbed the shaken baby syndrome, but this case has been wrapped up in so much legal uncertainty that the lead detective is calling for Robertson's release. In an exclusive interview, NBC's Lester Holt spoke to him on death row as the movement builds to try and save his life.
Robert Robertson has spent more than 2 decades on Texas's death row, convicted of fatally shaking his 2-year-old daughter, Nikki, in 2002.
Did you harm your daughter, Nikki?
No, sir, I did not harm my daughter.
Robertson said he woke up one night to find Nikki had fallen out of bed. Hours later, she was unconscious, her lips blue. He rushed her to the hospital.
And you told the medical staff that she had fallen?
Yes, sir. They didn't believe my story.
Detective Brian Wharton from the Palestine Police Department was called to the hospital.
They were frantically working on this child, trying to figure out what was going on with her. And somewhere in there, shaken baby came into the vernacular.
The medical staff told the detective that Nikki showed signs of abuse and believed she had been shaken to death. And then there was Robertson's curious demeanor.
He wasn't upset. He kind of had a flat affect.
That was a red flag as far as you were concerned?
Well, it struck us as odd.
Nikki was pronounced dead, her father charged with her death, and a year later he was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to die.
He is totally innocent. And not just that, there was no crime.
Robertson's current attorney believes Nikki was misdiagnosed, and that after detecting bleeding behind her eyes and on her brain, which was also swollen, together known as the triad, the doctors looked no further for a cause.
Back then, it was seen as almost, a magical formula. You don't need to look at anything else. You can assume abuse occurred in the form of violent shaking.
If not shaken baby, then what killed Nikki?
There was this tragic death of a chronically ill child. The doctors missed the fact she had a severe, life-threatening pneumonia.
But at trial, Robertson's jury never heard the full extent of Nikki's chronic health history. More than 40 doctor visits over the span of her short life, and a fever of over 104 2 days before she died.
And then prescribed medications that could only have pushed her further over the edge by suppressing her ability to breathe.
Information the police never looked into.
Did you have a chance to look into her medical history before arresting Robert?
No, we did not look into her medical history. Again, we were chasing an abuse case.
Pediatrician Dr. Andy Asnes, who was not involved in the case, says identifying abuse requires a thorough investigation.
When making the diagnosis of abusive head trauma, context is absolutely critical. No one can make this diagnosis in the absence of a lot of other important information.
And neither police nor the jury knew Robertson had autism, explaining his perceived lack of emotion. He wasn't diagnosed until 2018. Wharton, now a minister, believes he helped send an innocent man to die.
Why are you here?
Because I owe Robert nothing less. And so it's my responsibility to help give him a voice, to help him be heard, because he is an innocent man.
Thousands are fighting to save his life, including a large bipartisan group of Texas lawmakers, some even praying with him on death row. All of Robertson's appeals so far have been denied. Unless the courts or Texas Governor Greg Abbott step in, Robertson will be executed on October 17th.
I know the part of Robert that I hear in my head is that childlike commitment to hope, and that he would say that I can't give up hope.
Can his life be saved at this point?
Gosh, I pray it can. If we can't save someone like Robert, who is so clearly innocent, then truly, we're lost.
If you could speak to the governor directly, from the heart, what would you tell him?
Governor Abbott, I did not do this, and I'm just hoping, praying that you do the right thing.
How are you preparing for your own death, your own execution?
I'm at peace if it happens, but I'm not ready because I don't think I should be executed when I'm innocent.
That was NBC's Lester Holt reporting. Before we go, it is time for the future of everything. Elon Musk is pretty vocal about who he wants in office now, but he's reportedly been dishing out big bucks for political races much longer than previously thought. What a new report is revealing about his major influence in politics. Straight ahead. Now for the future of everything. Elon Musk has reportedly been a major conservative political donor for quite a while now. According to the Wall Street Journal, Musk has been donating money to conservative causes, including Donald Trump aide Stephen Miller. He's also reportedly been giving to backers of Governor Ron DeSantis' presidential run. According to the Journal, Musk's political shift seems to be tied to personal issues. CNBC's Emily Wilkins has more.
Elon Musk created a political action committee earlier this year that has given tens of millions to Trump. But in the last month, Musk's PAC, called the America PAC, has now started giving to House Republicans in competitive races, at least $5.1 million so far to 15 races across the country. That's according to CNBC's review of public filings. Now, the funds come as the House Republicans' campaign arm is lagging their Democratic counterparts in fundraising. And the House remains a toss-up that either party has a shot of winning this November. Public filings show the Winklevoss twins and Palantir's Joe Lonsdale have all donated to Musk's super PAC. What's not clear is exactly how much of Musk's own money has gone into the PAC, although he has posted on X that he plans to make some donations. A spokesman for the America PAC declined to comment. New reports out from the Wall Street Journal and Reuters have found that Musk quietly poured tens of millions into Republican campaigns since 2022. That includes a $10 million donation to Ron DeSantis' presidential campaign and $50 million to a group with ties to former Trump aide Stephen Miller. Trump reportedly donated through dark money groups that do not have to disclose their donors. But we'll be getting a lot more clarity on which races Musk's PAC is supporting later this month when the next round of filings are due. Emily Wilkins, CNBC Business News, Washington.
All right, that does it for us tonight. I'm Ellison Barber. We will see you tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.